This is going to sound like so much hate, and I swear it's not.
Welcome to the Warner Brothers podcast. My name is Keenan, joined by my brother Kyle, joined by Timmy. Yesterday, you've seen my QB tiers. The day before, we talked awards, we talked firing, talked on Harbaugh. And now we get into Kyle and his playoff tiers. Officially, I just want to make sure to confirm, there is no teams that didn't make the playoffs in this, right? We're just the playoff tier teams?
Incorrect, actually. This is
you
all
do have
32
all of them?
teams.
Okay. You do have all of them,
This
okay.
is all 32 teams.
Okay.
I did not do this last year, Keenan. I did not, at least I don't think I did. I did not tier the teams that did not make the playoffs. I'm going to very briefly check just to make sure. Oh, I did. Yeah. I did tier the non-playoff teams last year as well. And that's actually, I think, how we started off with our whole, hey, the Panthers could possibly win the division next year. And lo and behold, they actually did.
Yeah. Hey, I just want to say, though we didn't predict them to, and I had the Bucs winning the division, my way too early predictions were correct. My insanely way too early predictions were correct. And then my actual predictions were incorrect. Very.
The only one I remember saying for my way too early predictions was Chiefs to miss the playoffs.
Yeah, you did say Chiefs to miss the playoffs. You did. You did say Chiefs to miss the playoffs.
Let me just double check, and maybe I should have done this before we started, but let me double check the non-playoff teams tiers. I think we're good here. I think we're good. I did just see a category that I liked, but I think we're good. So we'll start with, obviously from the bottom up, we'll start with, the worst teams in the league and how they're tiered, and then we'll eventually get to the playoff teams. Sure, without further ado, Keenan and Tim, NFL Wasteland, 3 teams. I think you could guess the 3 teams if you really wanted to. I don't think
Jets,
it's a surprise.
Raiders, Titans.
You got it. You can't get any worse than these 3 teams. I will ask you guys this. If you had to pick one of these teams out of the Titans, out of the Raiders, out of the Jets, who would be the one you think actually, like, I'm not going to say is a playoff team or a winning team, but who do you think actually looks like a competent NFL team next year?
I was actually going to ask you that same question. Well, I was going to ask because 2 of these teams have head coaching vacancies, and I was going to ask which team would you rather take over as a head coach?
That's a tough question.
That is a tough question. I think, it is tough. The Titans I think they have their QB with Cam Ward, but they need pieces elsewhere. But the Raiders have pieces elsewhere, but they need their QB, so we kind of got inverse situations. And then obviously nobody wants to be on the Jets. So it's not the Jets, I'll tell you that. I think it's the Raiders. They've got their running back. They've got the tight end. They can get a second-round wide receiver. They're going to probably get their quarterback. They have pieces on the O-line. They were just injured this year. I think that's really a decent spot for a head coach. I think it's the Raiders for sure.
I would lean the Raiders too because they have the number 1 pick. If they had like the 4 pick, I think I'd go with the Titans. But you have your pick of the litter at quarterback. You're most likely going Mendoza. You might go Moore as a chance there, whatever you do. But you have your pick of quarterback in this draft. So as a coach, you get to come in, scout the guys this year and say, hey, we can get maybe not a franchise change. I mean, you want a franchise changer, but you can at least get a guy who can play quarterback. There's some good quarterbacks in this class, even though it's not like a phenomenal class, but there's some good quarterbacks there. And so between that and then from there, you've got Genty, you've got Brock Bowers, you've got a piece or 2 on that offensive line, and obviously you've got Max Crosby. So like you have pieces that you can build around there more so than you do in Tennessee, because in Tennessee it's Cam Ward, Jeffrey Simmons, and then just a bunch of guys. You have some people who can obviously blossom into something we don't know, but right now it's just kind of just a bunch of guys after that. So I would lean the Raiders.
You know what? I agree with you guys. I think the Raiders have the best roster. And I think initially I leaned Las Vegas Raiders as well, right? For that very reason. The only thing that would hang me up on, like, if they're the flat out best job out of the three is that division. You've got legitimately three playoff teams, three good teams in that division. I know the Chiefs aren't a playoff team now, but I mean, would any of us be surprised if they make the playoffs next year? Of course not.
No.
So that
you
would
might
be the
in the
only
South
hang-up.
now, though, which is why I didn't go. You might in the South now, and then obviously
That's
two
true.
teams in the East,
That's
which
true.
is why because I mentally went there too, and I was like, wait, the Jags look good, the Texans again look good, and then the Colts, when competent quarterback play, look good. So
yeah, it's a competitive division.
It's not the same though.
You could reasonably say, and this is insane to say, and I'm not going to give them this grace. You could say the Jets is the best situation with all the picks they have coming up. Like, you're essentially restarting that team. The only difference is, I think 4 to 6 years ago, they were in the same exact position where they had a ton of picks, blah, 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 new coach, and they ruined it because they're the Jets. And they seem to be ruining it already with Aaron Glenn. I mean, I really want to give him the benefit of the doubt. I actually thought he was going to be a good coach for them. I mean, I didn't know that. He's a coordinator, but I was like, he's saying the right things coming in. Everyone made a big deal about him turning down Aaron Rodgers, and he was a disaster of a coach. I actually would have gave Pete Carroll a second chance before I would have gave Aaron Glenn a second chance in New York. I thought Aaron Glenn was, I mean, we talked about it yesterday. No picks, and they 53% of their offensive snaps, they were down double digits. I mean, you got to be just outright awful. They weren't even competitive. So, yeah, I think I would lean with you guys, probably Las Vegas Raiders, and you get to live in a warm weather city. Why not? Next tier, and we can maybe shuffle this around if we want. This is actually only one team. New QB, new coach. It's the Arizona Cardinals. I think in theory I could technically put the Cleveland Browns here. I have the Cleveland Browns in another tier. But I think it's reasonable that Shador could start next year. Who knows? Maybe he's their backup. It's reasonable that he could compete. So we don't really know. We do know Jonathan Gannon is no longer the Arizona Cardinals head coach. And we do know for sure Kyler Murray is not going to be there next year. So I got them in this tier. If y'all want to add anyone else, you can tell me. But I mean, we got other tiers to get to. I thought this was probably one of the least consequential, along with the bottom tier.
We might see Miami join this tier.
Could be. Very well could be.
Maybe Harbaugh says, hey, if you're willing to get Tua off this roster, I'll come down there, if that's the case.
It sounds like Tua has definitely played his last snap in Miami. That's one of the things I read towards the end of the season was like McDaniel could be safe, probably is safe, whatever. Obviously, Harbaugh might change things, but that Tua for sure would never play another snap for the Dolphins. So, yeah, in theory, though, they could be here. As of today, though, really all I got there is the Arizona Cardinals. I couldn't really put them in a more positive tier, even though I do think they have talent. But we don't know who their QB is. If they go the Cleveland Browns route and just say, like, whatever, we're kind of going to throw away the QB position next year, this could be one of the worst teams in the league. They could also be a playoff team next year if they play their cards right. If they play their cards right, though.
I'm fine with this tier. I don't have any other team there because definitively I don't think there's another situation that's at the moment that's above it. Because you don't know with the Browns.
For sure. And we'll talk about the Cleveland Browns right now. This tier is called No Coach, but could be promising. Got 3 teams. Obviously, I just told you one of them is the Cleveland Browns. The next 2, the Atlanta Falcons and Timmy G's New York Giants.
Timmy, you go, because you're about to say something, too, about that other one.
Oh, I was going to say something. Just, we were going to get on a real tangent, so I'll keep it.
Okay.
Boy, I want to hear it.
Tua for Kyler Murray, straight up. Who says no?
The coach of the Arizona Cardinals, if they don't like him.
I mean, Tua's always been a serviceable quarterback. Like, yeah, he probably can't win you the big game. If you're trying to get rid of Kyler, you're taking on a contract similar to Kyler. And Tua with McBride, with Marvin Harrison, with Michael Wilson, who's balling out at the end of the year, that's a good supporting cast, 100%. Like, he could definitely get it done there. And then Kyler Murray, mobile QB, moves into a Mike McDaniel system, which he's never had a mobile QB before. Maybe he just goes crazy.
I like the thought of Kyler in Miami much more than Tua with Arizona. Tua would be very much dependent on the head coach, which I guess Kyler would be too, but Kyler's got more raw talent, I guess, to where at least you can kind of win games off his talent. For what it is what it is. You're not necessarily getting to the playoffs every year, but you can win games with Kyler Murray. Tua looked like a shell of himself this year. So I don't know. I expect Tua to be almost like either a bridge quarterback on a young team or competing for a backup spot and possibly like on an injured, like Indianapolis, I could actually see weirdly Tua on, like just because they seem to play that role a lot of like, all right, older and Tua's still young, but like veteran QBs who kind of need a home. So I could kind of see him replacing Daniel Jones for a little bit. I know he's supposed to be back week 1, but we'll see, you know. But I do like the idea of Kyler in Miami with Mike McDaniel. I think that would be exciting with Achane, with Waddle possibly Tyreek Hill coming back. Who knows what that would look like? But I do like the thought of Kyler in multiple different offenses, depending on where he ends up.
Yeah, no, there's definitely some teams that I like, Kyler, but overall, I like this. I like this. I don't think there's any other team that I need here. I like it.
Yeah,
we got the Giants and the Falcons, and then there was one other.
The Browns.
Cleveland Browns.
The Browns. The Browns are difficult, especially offensively. Like Harold Fannin, nice. Njoku, nice. Don't love the wide receiver core, and I don't think Quinshon Judkins plays a single snap next year. So they kind of need to hit the draft again. And I actually think Deshaun is going to be their starting QB for the whole season next year.
Wow. That's a statement.
He's going to play. I don't even think you can argue this. He's going to play better than Shador did, and he's going to play better than Dylan Gabriel did. And they don't have an out. There is no, we're cutting you. We're not going to eat $100 million in dead cap. So you're on the roster. Might as well play you if you're better than those two. So
I think we talked about this. He's got 2 more years on that deal.
Yeah, it might be one. I think because they added a bunch of like void years to try to or whatever, but he screws them over forever. It's a fully guaranteed deal.
Oh man.
Yeah. What a time.
Not much to add from Keenan there, just exasperated. Yeah.
There's nothing to add. It's whatever they start next year. You got Myles Garrett in purgatory. He's gonna go have 18 sacks and just be a 5-win team. It'll be fine.
Look, we're not perfect on the Warner Brothers podcast. I don't really love the category that I'm about to give you. I don't love the teams. I almost want to look back at my tiers from last year and see what my equivalent to this was. Well, I'm not going to do that because we're already live and I've already got it written down. I actually, like, as you or Tim more so was speaking just barely, I moved this category into like where I'm about to talk right now. It was actually the next one ahead. And I'm kind of quibbling with it because I feel like I could have either or here, but we'll go with it how I have it now. Selling stock. I've got 2 teams. I got the Washington Commanders. Don't like anything from their past 12 months, to be honest with you. Or I can't say that because they were in the NFC Championship game 12 months ago. I don't like anything from the last 10 months from the Washington Commanders. And this is the part I don't love. I got the Tampa Bay Bucks in here. And you could talk me into it either way. The reason why I'm selling stock, and maybe I shouldn't put this much expectations on the Atlanta Falcons, but we saw the Saints end well. We've talked ad nauseum for the last 2 seasons, honestly. Maybe even the last 3 or 4 seasons, we've talked about the Falcons just get the right head coach. Like, that's not only a division winner, but could be scary in the playoffs. So if they even just get me Kevin Stefanski, I don't think he's a great coach, but I think he's a good coach. I think that alone would be an upgrade. So I got the Bucks here almost as if like Panthers won the division. Granted, they backed into it. Saints look promising. Falcons could be promising. All they just need is a real coach here. So by proxy of that, I'm selling stock on the Bucks. Though I do really like the Bucks roster. I still very much like the Bucks roster. So I don't love this category. I love the category itself, but I don't really love putting the Bucks here. But I couldn't really think of anyone else that fit aside from the Commanders. So maybe I should just have the Commanders by themselves. But I feel like the Bucks, with how they ended the season, still kind of fit this mold. And we just found out today they are in fact bringing Todd Bowles back. How do you guys feel about this?
Actually fine with the Bucks being there personally. They're getting to a point where they have a mix of youth and age, but their defense is getting older. So like some of the key pieces on their defense is getting older. So naturally throughout you're going to have a good free agency. I don't know what their cap situation is. I can't imagine they're fruitful, but I also don't think that they're going to be like strapped. I think they'll be able to get a couple veteran guys, but they're in a position where I just don't think that there's the room for ascension. So it's kind of where they are right now. I think it's more stagnant. And obviously, yeah, you could argue their room for ascension is being healthy for an entire year. But that's hard because at this point, a lot of the guys on their team have a history of getting banged up here, banged up there. So I'm fine with them here because I do have more faith in, like, I think the Panthers could do something, all depending. We'll kind of know more a little bit in this playoff game and how they look. And then the Falcons, you get a coach there and you get this guy who can play quarterback consistently for 16 weeks or 17 weeks, I should say. And then the Saints were building something. Saints are also tough too because financially, I think they still got a couple more years before they can get out of that. Start being
Maybe
on
so.
the upside.
Maybe so. I really don't think, unless you're the Cleveland Browns, I really don't think the financial situation matters in the NFL the way it does in the NBA or other sports, but especially the NBA. Like we saw the Saints. I mean, you could feasibly say maybe if they play Shuck earlier on that, maybe they win the division. They were only 2 games out technically.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't think the money will necessarily hurt them possibly. And I actually wish, now looking at it again, I actually wish I gave the next tier that I'm going to give before the selling stock tier, but that's besides the point. Any more comments on the selling stock tier?
Definitely don't mind having both teams in there. I think we should rename this tier to both these teams will fire their head coach next year. Because I realistically think that the Commanders are going to have another 5 to 6 win season. They're kind of devoid of talent on offense, and defensively not good. Pretty old team, and it's really caught up to them. And then the Bucks, also a kind of old team, and I honestly think, like, if the Bucks make the playoffs, say they are the division winner at 10 wins next year, and they lose in the first round, I still think Todd Bowles is gone. Like, I don't think
so.
that's enough to save him. So
I agree.
I'm good to rename that tier to these guys will be looking for new jobs.
Black Monday candidates 2027.
Exactly.
That's more than fair. That is more than fair. You will see with this next tier why I had such trouble like between the two, because I feel like they're kind of interchangeable. So this one's actually, the offseason will tell us a lot. It's 2 teams. It's the Cincinnati Bengals and it's the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins, obviously, it'll hinge on, will they keep Mike McDaniel, and who will they draft? If they draft, will they try to go the veteran QB route? What will they do at QB? So the offseason will tell us a lot on whether it's like a mini rebuild. Are they going to try to compete next year? Like, what's this going to look like for the Miami Dolphins? Bengals, we know the weaknesses. You got to build up that offensive line. You got to add to that defense. Will they actually take it seriously? Do they have the pieces to maybe make trades? We know they're not going to spend money. So like, what is your option here? Because that division's going to be open. The Browns have a huge question mark. The Steelers are just, I mean, if you listen to yesterday's pod, I mean, I still can't believe they're actually in the playoffs. Ravens drama and Ravens injuries notwithstanding, I still can't believe the Steelers are in the playoffs. And then the Ravens, as we know, they're going to look different. There's going to be some growing pains there with whoever they bring in as a head coach. So that on top of having they won't have a last place schedule, but they'll have a third place schedule. I mean, if you get a healthy Joe Burrow, there's no reason why you can't get 10 wins next year. So offseason will tell us a lot. If they can friggin' just round out, and I say 10 wins with the current roster, if they can round out the offensive line and get some impact defensive pieces, no reason why we couldn't be talking Super Bowl or a championship Sunday for this team next year. So
And they need to be. You can't have Joe Burrow, and I understand there's been injuries, but 4 years of missing the playoffs, we start to get to a point where we just cannot continue to miss the playoff. Yeah, I was looking and seeing if there's any other teams that I wanted added to this, but I mean, technically you could with a couple other teams, but I actually like them a little bit higher, and then there's different tier names I would give these teams. So I'm fine with both of these teams because I think both of these teams have big off seasons ahead of them.
Yeah, both teams definitely have big off seasons, but it's like they're both in such different spots where it's like the Bengals, we pretty much know the offense is good. It's going to be good as long as they stay healthy. They need to fix their defense. I trust Mike McDaniels enough, I think, to where he'll probably have a just below middle of the pack team with whatever situation they roll out next year. They also need to fix their defense. I feel like I feel a little bit more confident in the Bengals, but that's just because of Joe Burrow, really. You put Joe Burrow on any team, I'm going to feel more confident in them. But
Yeah.
I almost
agree.
wonder, like just looking at this, I almost wonder if I should put the Commanders and Dolphins into their own tier and put the Bengals and Bucks into their own tier. But again, they're all in such different spots. It's hard to say.
I like where you have it, personally.
Because Tim's right. They're in two very different spots. But it's true. Like, we got to wait and see in how we talk about the Dolphins until March. And that's the thing. We'll be doing these tiers once again in August. And it's going to look, the bottom's going to look probably a lot alike. But from the Cardinals up, right, which is, not the very bottom, but from the Cardinals, Browns, Giants, like they could all be in way different tiers depending on who they hire, how the draft goes, who they sign. Bengals, Dolphins included, Buccaneers, Commanders included. Like they could all go up or down. Let me give you this, all right, because we're getting near the end of these playoff teams. 3 teams in this tier. It's called buying stock. And I've got the Dallas Cowboys, I've got the Minnesota Vikings, and I got the New Orleans Saints. New Orleans Saints. React.
I like the tier. I like the Louisiana Saints. I think they've come a long way from the beginning of the season. The Cowboys, a couple defensive. It's funny to say a couple defensive pieces and they're there. Because at the beginning of the season we said that, and then they went and got a couple defensive pieces and they were not there. They were not even close to being there. They're gonna have an issue with the cap soon because they got to decide. George Pickens, are we giving you the bag? Like, you were probably gonna have to, and then Javante's gonna want a new contract. Like, he needs one if they want to bring him back. He's not gonna be, dirt cheap like he was this year. And then defensively, they just took on Quinnen Williams. That's a big contract. So they do need a few pieces and then to fix their kind of cap. And then we're there. Like, I agree. I would buy stock into them to potentially win the division next year. The way the NFC East goes, that wouldn't surprise me one bit. So I already said the Saints. What was the other team?
Vikings.
The Vikings. It all hinges on McCarthy. If Flores is there next year, the defense is good. The defense is good enough to win a Super Bowl. And then they have the pieces offensively. Maybe they could get like a better running back situation. I think Aaron Jones is pretty much on his last legs. So they've got the wide receivers. Hawkinson is fine. It's like, can he take that step to just being like competent for the full season, not get any bad games out of him? He doesn't have to be an MVP candidate or an offensive player of the year candidate. He just needs to be not terrible. And we've seen terrible a few times. So
I would actually, because there's only a few teams left, of course, and the Chiefs, the Lions, and the Ravens are 3 of the teams that are left. I would actually put the Chiefs in this tier. And the reason being is you have obviously Mahomes is going to be coming off of an injury. Kelsey's most likely going to be gone. They're a team that's going to be in more of a rebuild than a retool. Obviously, you can retool. They have a really good coach and things, but like they need a back for sure. They could go get Breece Hall. They might be able to draft Caleb Love, all depending on there. They've got a good offensive line. Defensively, oh, sorry, I said Caleb Love. Jeremiah Love. Why did I say Caleb Love? What, we playing basketball? Jeremiah Love. But
Kevin Love.
defensively, they need a couple edge rusher. They need a couple things defensively too. So I think that this is going to be a little bit more than just like get Mahomes healthy and we're right back. I think they'll compete. Don't get me wrong. I don't think they're a 4-win team kind of thing, but I also think that they need a little bit more. But you could buy stock in the fact that the Chiefs, they do make good decisions in the draft. They'll be able to do some things in the offseason. So I'd actually have the Chiefs down a little bit.
Well, Keen, you jumped the gun because the Chiefs are in the next tier, and you touched on a lot of the points I was going to touch on. Any comments before we move on about the Cowboys, Saints, or Vikes?
No, I like all of them there. I think that there's a lot of promise there. Each of them have to have a good offseason. They have a good offseason. They can compete to win the division.
I may tinker with it because I want the Bengals in this tier. I actually want the Bengals in the buying stock. It's just that like the organization hasn't really given us reason to buy stock with how they allocate their money. And I think it looks more reflective of where they ended their season with them being closer to the Dolphins and the Commanders than maybe the Vikings, Saints, or Cowboys. Let's move on, though. We'll have all the chance in the world to move these teams around. Gap year, as Keenan mentioned prior, the Kansas City Chiefs and the Indianapolis Colts are in here. I know it's been said that Daniel Jones will be ready for training camp, will be ready for week 1. I'm personally skeptical. And even if he is, like what? Like, what's the rush of playing him, especially with how well he did play up until his injury? If you actually want this guy to be a part of your franchise, like, take it easy with him. We know they got talent. We know they can win games even without him. I mean, they had Phillip Rivers dealing these last couple games of the season. So it is interesting when we mention like Tua or Kyler Murray or anyone they could have in there in place of Daniel Jones. Let's say if he missed the first 4 weeks, he was on IR for the first 4 weeks. So I got the Colts there and I got the Chiefs there for every reason Keenan just laid out previously. Mahomes will be back. You're not really going to have expectations. Kelsey's likely gone. I think we all agree this could be a playoff team. They could even be a Super Bowl team, depending. But that's the thing, it's depending. And you're going to have Mahomes back. He likely won't look like Mahomes that first year back. Usually year 2, you really look like yourself, or maybe later on in year 1. So I think they're going to have a freedom to experiment with things going forward. If they get Breece Hall, that'll be cool. But I think they'll have room here in this draft to really kind of build what team they want to be and almost take next year as a whole preseason, honestly. And if you make the playoffs, cool. If you don't, cool. That sounds crazy to say with Pat Mahomes, but I have no doubt they'll at least compete with the Chargers and Broncos, and we'll see what they actually do in the playoffs. But, it might start off rough, but as we know and as we've seen, since the 17-game season has come along, I mean, you can make a run in week 9. If your first 8 weeks aren't the greatest, you can still make a run week 9 going forward. So, Chiefs and Colts. Tim, what do you have to say? Because Keenan gave us his Chiefs thoughts already.
I think the Colts are closer to not taking a gap year than the Chiefs are. I agree. The Chiefs, like you said, they're losing. Kelsey's probably going to retire. He had said that if he thinks he can make it for 20 games, then he'll come back, but I really don't think that happens. Maybe we see like a Gronk scenario where week 10 he goes, you know what, I'm coming out of retirement, and then he just plays on. But it would take a very, very specific scenario for that to work for him. They need run game. So I just don't like the team overall. Plus, Rashee Rice, domestic abuse allegations now. Seen this on Instagram today. This could be something. It's just too much of a mess to say that they're going to be contending or playoff or anything.
Is this brand new with Rashee Rice? Like as of today?
Yes.
Really?
Yep. This was posted today. Saw a bunch of pictures. Like, I guess his girlfriend took all these photos and looks pretty serious, so it could be an issue. Plus, given the history with good old Crashy Rice over there, so it It could,
heard that one.
you just suspend him
You've-
for 6 games again, and all of a sudden, this team isn't even close to a playoff team. So,
From her post, she said, I've known this man for years. He tries to put on this persona like he's dad of the year. He does the bare minimum, and I have to beg for that. I've protected his image too long, and I'm done doing that. It's time to protect my peace, protect my children, and stand up for myself. That's part of her post. So
Could be a
we'll
situation.
see. And then it says the club is aware. This is talking about from the Kansas City Star. It says the club is aware of the allegations on social media and is in communication with the NFL. We have no further comment at this time. So that is.
I always love when a situation like that's going on and like all the information, not all of it, but like all the physical information that's like present is like visible to us as a whole. And it's obviously visible to the organization, and they'll be like in this situation, they'll be like, the Kansas City Chiefs are monitoring the situation. It's like, yeah, no shit, they're seeing exactly what we're seeing. Of course, they're monitoring the situation.
Yeah, but otherwise, I'll speak on the Colts a touch, just because obviously I already spoke on what I think of the Chiefs. I think that the Colts are in a situation where they're gonna have to find the Achilles coming back from it. I think like Daniel Jones won't really be himself until the 2027 like full season. So I think this 2026 year, which is why you can kind of put him in the gap year. But I also think that if you get a quarterback in there of Mac Jones level, that this team can do a lot of similar things to what they did this year early on. I mean, not be like I'm the greatest offense of all time, like they were for the first 4 weeks of the season, barely punting. But I think that 10 wins is possible just because if you have a healthy team, Jonathan Taylor's running again. I think it's possible if you get the right back kind of level quarterback in there.
My mind didn't even go to Mac Jones, Keenan. Mac Jones on this offensive line in this receiving crew could actually do damage. Like Mac Jones is going to throw you picks, but
he's my baseline. He's my baseline for good, just good NFL core. Like I think probably like right now he feels like your league average quarterback, and I don't mean that in a bad way.
Yeah,
I just mean like he's just like mid-level, good, solid quarterback. You could start him for a season, feel confident. If he's your franchise guy, you probably don't feel confident. But like if he had to start for a season, it's a perfect bridge quarterback. He's a perfect. I have to fill in for Brock Purdy, and the offense isn't going to go in shambles, and we can still win 12 games.
Listen, with weapons and with an offensive line, I think you can get more than 1 year out of them. Like the Colts, like if it actually ends up being that, like he happens to go to the Colts, like that could be a win for them. Again, all depends on what team he goes to, but
49ers will probably keep him just because like he had a couple. I mean, why wouldn't you? Brock Purdy, I would keep him too. But I'm just saying that's always my baseline. If you put baseline quarterback there, I think that they can win games.
So we've got 2 more non-playoff teams, and we actually have 2 more categories before we get to the playoff teams. So these guys are each in their own category. This category, this tier is called "You Better Win a Super Bowl Before the Decade Ends." I think you guys can agree which of these 2 teams I'm talking about. I'm talking about the newly free of a head coach, Baltimore Ravens.
I actually might put both. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Oh, you could.
I'm just saying you have them in a different. But like, I get what you're saying. Is you fire John Harbaugh,
you better
and
win.
you better win. So I get why you have them differently and why you have that specific. But like, you have Jared Goff, Jahmyr Gibbs, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sam Laporta, Jamison Williams, Aiden Hutchinson, Brian Branch. You have this great motivating coach in Dan Campbell. You get to an NFC Championship game, then you're 15-2, and then you lose a playoff game, and then you don't even make the playoffs this year. So it's like if you're, you better win when you have all of this talent. Like you better get there.
Difference being, Keenan, and we'll talk about the Lions obviously more because I really do want to focus on the Ravens here. Difference being, not only are the Lions in a tougher conference altogether, that division's tough, right? Bears, Packers, Vikings. You got 3 legit teams there. Not to say that AFC North isn't tough, because I believe the AFC North is pretty damn tough too. But I think most years, last couple years at least, you're going into that thinking, okay, Ravens are probably the best team in here. Like Joe Burrow is an X factor there, of course. If he's healthy, like he can obviously will his team to a few more wins. But you're looking at the Ravens like, all right, they got a great roster. They got John Harbaugh in the past, obviously. Like, they should win this division. And we felt that way about the Lions, maybe. But, I mean, like this year, none of us picked the Lions. We know how competitive that conference and that division is. So I don't put as much pressure on the Detroit Lions. And, of course, I mean, the reason why we just called it, I mean, they fired John Harbaugh because they think they can do better to win a Super Bowl. I mean, that's their goal here. And Lamar Jackson, Lamar's gotta make that next step and actually win these ball games. So that's why they're in this tier by themselves. And I think you'll agree with the tier I have the Lions in here in a couple minutes. But yeah, man, they fired John Harbaugh. They're all in on Lamar. Happy birthday to Lamar, by the way. It's apparently his birthday today. They've got a Super Bowl ready roster. Like, you gotta nail not only your draft, not only your offseason, you absolutely have to nail this head coaching decision. Because if it's even slightly worse, I mean, you could set yourself back 2 years realistically. And we're not even talking about what the Browns or the Bengals and the Steelers offseason might do, because we don't even know what that's going to look like yet. So the Ravens are very much in a position here to just set themselves up as prohibited favorites if they wanted to, if they nail this. So y'all react.
Timmy, you go.
I like it. I agree. I mean, I've said yesterday, they gotta have a candidate in mind that they think is a better option, and I don't think that is going to be the case. Honestly, you could rename this "You better not have a losing record next year." Like, that's enough for me to be like, this was a loss. You made the wrong mistake. So, yeah, when you said this tier, like, a bunch of teams came to mind, but a few of them are playoff teams, so, like, maybe they will. We don't know.
Yeah.
Fortunately, it's not the Ravens.
Yeah. I think that the Ravens obviously have the talent to be competing for a championship, at least playing in the playoffs past weekend one. So, yeah, you have to have a coach in place that's going to be able to get that done.
Yeah, I mean, the other part to this too, I mean, again, like Tim said, we discussed it yesterday. They feasibly still could have won a championship with John Harbaugh. Like, yeah, late game stuff aside, like, we've seen weirder coaches, worse coaches win a Super Bowl. Harbaugh has won a Super Bowl. I mean, even Andy Reid. Andy Reid, before he went to Kansas City, was like much maligned on late game management, on clock management, on blowing big games. And Harbaugh really only had, in the Lamar era, this is really his only bad season, and they ousted him. So very interesting. I mean, they got to at least be on par with what they were doing with Harbaugh or better. And again, if you ask me, you got to win one this decade, or, maybe if it's 2030, whatever, but y'all got to win soon for sure. Last tier, last team, everything is lined up. Detroit Lions. They're going to be confirmed last place schedule, right? Detroit Lions.
Yeah, with the Vikings winning, they're going to have a last place schedule. They should be healthy. Yeah.
I mean, Keenan went over their roster. I truly think this is the most talented roster in the league, and they're going to be playing a last place schedule. And unlike any league in the world, you can truly build your team through the draft. You can replenish your team through the draft. You can reinforce your team through the draft. The Lions nail their draft, nail their free agent signings, get a new OC, right? Take less pressure off Dan Campbell. They could have an unreal team next year. I mean, I'm almost ready to put in a Super Bowl ticket for them right now, truly, without even knowing anything.
I just wanted to, because obviously we're talking about the team. We'll talk about this real quick. They've got their home games. Obviously, we don't know, but we know like who they have for what. Their home games next year will be against obviously their division: New Orleans, Tampa, New England, New York, the Jets. That is,
oh my God,
the Giants,
that's
and
a
the
60-3 game next year. Lions,
and then
Jets.
the Titans, and then on the road, obviously they have the division. They have the Falcons, they have the Bills, they have the Panthers, they have the Dolphins, they have the Cardinals.
That already sounds like a pretty favorable schedule.
Yeah, they have their division's going to be tough, and then you assume New England's going to be good next year. Assume Buffalo's going to be good next year. You don't know what you're going to get from teams like Atlanta or Arizona or Miami. Those games could be up in the air. Carolina and Tampa could be up in the air, and then you got the New York teams who the Jets know, the Titans will know, and then the Giants you don't know. So the Giants could have talent, and they could be something. They could not be. It's like
And even
Yeah.
then, most of these games, I can tell you right now, most of these games, excluding like the Bills and the Pats and obviously the divisional games, depending, they're going to be favored in the majority of the games you just mentioned.
Oh, for sure.
If not
For
all
sure,
of the
so-
games you just mentioned.
For sure. Like, no, that feels like 12-5 right now. Like just looking at it, like blink, because that division's super tough. So it looks like 12-5 to me. It looks like 12-5 and maybe the leader of the NFC North. But yeah.
Yeah, man, I think this is a team, like, if they were in the playoffs right now, like, I would, even how banged up they were on defense, I would still, like, give this team a real shot to win it all. Obviously, it didn't line up that way. Obviously, they'd still need, like, the offensive line was weaker than we expected. They got pushed around at times. That run game is still legit. That pass game is still legit. Maybe Goff isn't friggin' Tom Brady, but he's still better than 85% of the league, if not 90% of the league at the QB position. I don't know, man. Everything's there. The defense was banged up 2 years in a row, and somehow this year was more banged up than last year. And they still were in position to at least be in the playoffs. Obviously, everything didn't go well. Obviously, they lost. Who was the must-win game before? Oh, it was the Vikings, right, on Christmas Day. Steelers
Vikings on
Steelers and
Christmas.
Vikings back to back.
Yeah.
You don't love that. You, in fact, hate it. And the Steelers game was kind of 50-50. I mean, you could argue that that play was completely legal that they scored on at the end there. That was a very messy situation, but Vikings, there's no excuse for that. They got housed by the Vikings twice even. But, I mean, that still doesn't give me any reason to sell stock on them. I'm buying stock and then some. Like I said, if I could purchase a Super Bowl ticket today on this team, I think I would. Playoff teams, any more comments on the Detroit Lions?
No. We'll talk about them from April on, unless Timmy does.
Well, I just want to say the Detroit Lions actually had the most points for in the NFC
in the
North
entire
this,
NFL
this year.
That's right.
That's like an insane stat for a team that didn't make the playoffs. So you're telling me that offense comes back and they get to play a bunch of fourth place teams? They're gonna score 100 more points than they scored this year. So it's gonna be a bloodbath next year. I think there's gonna be a lot of teams that might like try to forfeit in the third quarter, and the NFL is gonna be like, sorry, this is what happens now.
What's their draft order? Where are they going to be picking?
I'm guessing like 14.
14, 15, 16, right?
Yeah. Well, it was funny because the Ravens, if they make it, right, they're a playoff team.
17.
The Ravens lose and they drop all the way to 13, which is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Chiefs are going to be in the top. Chiefs and the Bengals are both in the top 10, which is crazy.